All right. Let's just make sure everything is working the way it's supposed to. Yep. Everything looks good. Everything looks good. How are we doing, everybody? Wait for everybody to get in here. I'm going to go retweet my live stream on Twitter. If you guys are following me on YouTube right now, if you're watching from YouTube, be sure to go up and click the description. Go in and look. You can find my Twitter, you can find my Telegram, and you can find my Patreon there. That is the best way to support me, guys. That first Patreon episode is going up this week. I have an explanation for why I've been gone. If you guys follow me, you would know that I have a family member who is suffering from late stage cancer. I got to spend a good amount of time with that individual. They are doing very well. They just made it to their 1 year mark after they were given 1 year to live. So it was kind of a little bit of a celebration. The surgery went well. The uh, individual is responding to the chemo very well. So it doesn't mean anything. It's late stage cancer. So, it can change like that. But it was nice to hang out with that person while they were still healthy and themselves. So, yeah, it was a good 10-day break. I appreciate all of you sticking with me and standing by. It won't happen like that anytime soon. I'm here for a good while. There may be a weekend or here or there or something where I'm missing, but no more 10-day breaks. I am back, and man, did I pick the perfect time to leave, didn't I? We have a good amount of topics to discuss today. We have some changes in the Russian government. The Minister of Defense, Shoigu, has been promoted, I guess you would call it, to the Security Council. So he's now the Secretary of the Security Council. So there's some changes going on there. We'll discuss that. And the biggest news, obviously, the Russians have started their Kharkov Offensive. This is a new push on a new axis north of the city of Kharkov. This is a big deal. A lot of people have been waiting for this for a long time. A lot of people have been predicting it for a long time. We're going to take a look at what's happened so far, what I believe is going to happen, and the significance of this on the SMO in general. We just got one. If you guys have questions, the easiest way for me to see those is through super chats, super thanks, super stickers. It's also the easiest way for you guys to support me. You can interact with me in that fashion. So if you have questions throughout this thing that you want answered right away, I'll see those and I'll answer them. If you guys also throw up questions, I might get to them if I see them and just pass by them. So, all right. It has been 3 minutes of rambling, so let's get right into it, everybody. We have a week's worth of map updates to go over. So you're going to see a lot of green on the map. Just know that is about 7 days worth of updates that we have not gone over. So it's going to be a long one. Do a collab with Wyatt at Defense Politics Asia's channel. I have done a collab with him before. I'd be willing to do another one. He's just a very busy guy. So, yeah, reach out to him for me if he wants to do a show. Let's see. Let's share that map and let's get into it, huh? Okay. We are not going to start in the Kharkov region. I know that's where everybody wants us to start, but that is not where we are going to start today. We are going to start down here in the south. We're going to go with the most important or the least important updates and finish with the most important. Welcome back. Yes, thank you. Welcome back to all of you as well, guys. I missed you. It's been, I've wanted to do a live stream so bad. I was itching out there. I took my camera, I took my mic, but I just never found time and it wasn't really right. So I didn't do it. But thank you guys so much. It's good to be back. I'm excited to get back onto these. All right, here we go. Okay, so here in the Staromaiorsk, Uruzhain area, the Russians have improved their positions. I do believe now that the Russians have entered the southern portion of Staromaiorsk, and the southern portion of Uruzhain has seen further progress. I have not seen the geolocation, so I have not updated this map. These areas like this, though, are going to now be neglected by Ukraine, and you're going to see more Russian progress in these sort of less focused on areas by the Ukrainians as the Russians, as reserves get pulled to other areas of the front. We did have a correction to my map. The Ukrainians recaptured the area of Novelske. This pocket is closed on this back end, but over here the Ukrainians did push out and recapture this. So that portion of the map has been updated. It's weird that this is happening considering the Ukrainians are likely about to lose Natalove and Krasnohorivka down here in the south. So just trying to restabilize the situation is what the Ukrainians are doing here. This update is like 10 days old though, so just so you guys know, this does not have a major impact on what's going on right now. Good to see you back. Good to see you back, man. Thank you all, everybody. It's awesome that you guys are excited that I'm back. It's so cool to hear that, honestly. We have some pretty big updates in Krasnohorivka. Over here, you can see that the Russians have captured all of the fortifications in the east. This means that the strongest defense area of Krasnohorivka has collapsed. It is likely that the rest of Krasnohorivka will be taken very quickly. The Russians have secured the high ground and have completely captured the factory, as well as pushed out into these residential buildings. Krasnohorivka is on the clock now. The Ukrainians will still try to hold, obviously, as much as they can, but this area isn't even being talked about, and the Russians are making large gains here. Once Krasnohorivka falls, this entire northern field area will also fall. So expect further Russian success, and then further pressure out into these areas up, and then up towards north to Pokrovsk. Guys, pay attention to Pokrovsk. I know everybody's super focused on the Kharkov stuff going on in Kharkov and everything right now, but just pay attention to other areas of the map, because Kharkov is doing exactly what it's intending to do, and it's drawing all the attention, and it's getting making it in the news. And then what's more important is the Donbass. So watch Chasiv Yar and watch this area around Konstantinivka and New York and Toretsk. All right. The Russians have improved their position and captured the village of Umanske. The Ukrainians were forced to retreat after significant Russian progress up in this area. Basically, this entire line of defense here is kind of null and void, and the Ukrainians are just making it work with what they have. After Orchitny was lost, and after all of these northern areas were compromised, the defense lines in this area just kind of ceased to exist, and now they're just sort of playing it by ear. I expect another large Russian push, similar to what we saw out of Krasnohorivka at the beginning of the Avdiivka operation towards Stepove. Remember, they sacrificed a lot in that time period in this area, but they captured this Terkon, the waste heap, and then they were able to use that to progressively target Ukrainian positions and then push out the city. So I expect something of that scale to occur here again, forcing a breakthrough and then forcing I don't want to say collapse, but we are getting very, very near to the point where Ukraine has no available reserves. So eventually one of these holes is going to pop open. It could be happening in Kharkov right now, but eventually one of these areas is going to open up, and then the Ukrainians are not going to be able to stabilize that area, and then it's just going to be a flood. So just pay attention to all areas of the map right now. We have a small Russian improvement in position southwest of Novo Alexandrivka and just north of Sokil. We also have the Russians capturing an important fortification just north of Arkhangelsk. So this is another important high ground, and you can see the Russians are now getting back into this completely unpopulated area. The towns here are very, very tiny and completely residential. This is also in a valley right here. So the Russians are going to continue progressing along this high ground and are trying to reach this ring road and this T0504 highway. Again, trying to make supply to Konstantinivka difficult, and then threatening these 8-year fortifications around New York and Donetsk. Up around Ivanivsky, we have a very large Russian improvement. They've pushed out to the canal along the T0504. So the same highway that the Russians are pushing towards down here, they're progressing along up here. Pushing out to this canal significantly weakens the Ukrainian ability to hold Klishchivka. We do have reports of progress in Klishchivka, although I have not seen a geolocation, so I'm going to wait. But I think that Klishchivka, the Battle of Klishchivka, is about to come to an end once and for all. This place has been a nightmare for the Russians, and it's going to be very, very nice when they capture this hill right here, and this entire front opens up, and then they can begin putting pressure on Konstantinivka and the supply roads into New York and Donetsk. And then, all right, so now we're on to the Kharkov area. Guys, I'm going to explain the colors here because there's sort of a lot going on. Scott, use vitamin B17, a commonly named chemical called cancer. All right, I'll look into it, man. Thank you. All right, so here we have the Kharkov Offensive, and so far what has happened in the last 5 days, I think, is what we're looking at total now. The orange is what orange is the same as red over here. So this is consolidated gains. This is what we know the Russians have, absolutely. The green is the new confirmed Russian advance, and then the purple is the unconfirmed, but reported by enough accounts that I consider it a factual event that has happened. Purple, unconfirmed Russian advance. So the way this started, a few days ago, there was a very large artillery preparation, a massive amount of glide bombs, ballistic missiles, drones, a large number of reconnaissance drones were flying over the Kharkov region. The Russians then began taking out bridges and logistics lines in this Kharkov region. It was pretty clear that the Russians were doing something. This activity is unlike anything we've seen really recently. So on what day was it? What day is it now? It's Monday. I think Wednesday or Thursday of last week, the Russians crossed the border into Ukraine, which marks a new front opening for Ukrainian defenders, the AFU. This is exactly what I had talked about for a very long time. Again, remember, I'm gonna reiterate this, guys. There are only 50,000 Russian troops in this entire region. So Kursk, Belgorod, and Bryansk up here. So Chernigov, Sumy, Kharkov. These regions, there are a total of 50,000 reported troops. So as far as anybody knows, the Russians could have done some sneaky stuff and brought some guys up here. We don't know, but according to all available data, there are roughly 50,000 troops in this area. And while Ukrainian lines are weak, guys, 50,000 troops includes, border guards, people that are going to remain in country. That probably includes logistics. So these are not all just 50,000 infantry that can be thrown into battle. That's not a ton of people. So this attack, while it is impressive, and I don't think the Russians were necessarily expecting this level of success. They pushed out these border towns. I mean, we don't expect the Ukrainians to be defending these border towns just like the Russians didn't defend their border towns completely. A lot of these have been evacuated on the Russian side. The Ukrainians would do their cross-border raids into basically empty towns and then back out. The Russians did the same thing. Except they captured multiple of these villages and had the staying power to maintain. They entered on two separate axes right here into Pilna, I don't know, and over here in this area, heading towards Vovochansk. So Vovochansk is the first Ukrainian line of defense. There is a line of defense that runs right basically through here and kind of down like this, right? I actually don't know where it connects over here, but the important part of the defense line runs through Vovochansk. So the fact that the Russians are already at the first defense line is a very, very worrying sign for the Ukrainians. Apparently, As I had said, it takes a very long time to build fortifications, guys. It's not just something that you can kind of just do. I don't think the Russian fortifications in the south were really that good compared to what you would hope you were sitting in if you were being shelled and hit with bombs and stuff all day. They were enough, right? But even with 6 months, I mean, the Russians, if they would have had another year and a half, those fortifications would have been impenetrable, right? They would have had bunkers everywhere. It would have been a whole nother thing. So these lines are even less prepared. They did not have the manpower to invest in the creation of these lines. A lot of the money seems to have been laundered that was appropriated for these fortification constructions. So this is a very, very, very big deal. And a lot of the Ukrainian sources are now complaining about how the fortifications here are just nothing. And the Russians in this northern group are also operating at what seems like a heightened level. The way that they're conducting operations up here, it indicates to me that this grouping is very, very, very well trained, and the interconnected, like the combined arms aspect of this grouping is playing out very well. We've seen a massive amount of airstrikes in coordination with infantry assaults. We've seen incredible, and I mean this like no, like I can't explain to you guys how much Russian ISR has improved and how effective this northern group is at utilizing it. We've seen what, three Buk missile launchers of the Ukrainian armed forces destroyed in the last 72 hours. And these are the Franken Buks. So they put Western missiles, I think the AIM 7 on a Buk launcher. And it works, but it's not. It doesn't look as intended, and it kind of looks funny. So we call them Franken Buks. We've seen three of those destroyed. We've seen dozens. I mean, it seems like in the last 10 days, I've seen probably 20 to 30 Ukrainian self-propelled guns destroyed in the Kharkov region. We see missile strikes daily. The Ukrainian losses behind the front lines are extremely high, and this Russian grouping is just operating at a different level than I mean, we've kind of began to see that around Orchitny and around Chasiv Yar, but this grouping just seems like they've been training for this exact scenario for a decent amount of time, and now they're executing it brilliantly. We've seen one thing just to mention is that the Russians, I've seen multiple videos now of the Russians using laser guided artillery munitions. So just guided artillery to basically pick apart Ukrainian fortifications in this region because they're not very well constructed. So this accurate artillery fire is, you can expend 2 or 3 guided artillery shells and completely knock out a fortification network. Because you just hit the areas where the Ukrainians are sheltering. It's very obvious. And Orlan 12 or Orlan 10 drones of the Russian drone forces are just operating freely in the skies around Kharkov. So it's a very difficult situation that's unfolding up here in the north, and Ukraine only has one solution to that problem, right? There's only one way they can go about fixing that. They don't have the means, they don't have the air defense means, they don't have the technological means, they don't have the equipment, they don't have they're missing a lot. The only way they can stop this Russian advance is by bringing in reserves, throwing meat at the problem, right? It's the only way you can actually prevent the Russians from making all of this progress, and the Russians know this, and that's why they chose to go in at this time. But again, remember, it's a rather small grouping up here. So what I think this is still a distraction, a means to pull reserves out of the east and make this whole fight much, much easier. Really, this is the final expenditure of the Ukrainian army. If they commit to sending reserves up here, like it seems like they have, they sent the 79th, which I believe was around Krasnohorivka, and suffered pretty serious losses. So they don't have any fresh brigades to send. They're just sending what they have. I believe the 3rd Azov Brigade has been sent up here. The 79th has been sent up here. So there are a number of reserve units, whatever they have left, being tossed at this, trying to stop this. So, instantly, this is a major success. I put out a tweet a couple days ago that said, I know that this is very exciting for some people. People who follow this conflict. This is like a Titanic level update, right? This is what people have been talking about for 2 years happening. I get the attention that you want to pay to this, but remember, this is just the bait, and it's working very, very well. I mean, you can see how much they captured. This is unacceptable. Ukraine cannot accept this from a PR standpoint. This is Ukraine losing right here. That's all that this image is. It doesn't matter what the Russians have captured. What matters is this is Ukraine losing. Ukraine captured this. They should not be losing this. They need to stop this at all costs. They're going to bring everything that they can up here and then expect something in a different direction. I've said Pokrovsk the whole time. I think that this is the most important area to the entire south and to this even Kramatorsk and Slavyansk. I mean, if you take Pokrovsk, you just open up an entire can of worms that the AFU is not going to be able to stop. And you can see the progress when you zoom out on the map. You can see the direction that it seems like they're headed in. They want to head towards Pokrovsk. Also, Chasiv Yar could be something in the south. We just don't know. But for right now, we'll focus on the Belgorod region and what the goals may be, what the Ukrainians may be trying to accomplish, what the Russians may be trying to accomplish up in this northern Belgorod or Kharkov area. All right, let's see. I'm going to get some water real fast. Hey, Tyler, what's up? I heard a lot of these reserves were pulled from Kherson. Do you think we will see multiple new pushes, including areas like Kherson, Nikolaev, etc., as well as Sumy, or do you think a slower approach where we see focus on existing fronts and the new Kharkov one? Anything is possible, man. I think that the Ukrainians are exhausted. I am now very confident that the Ukrainians are extremely exhausted. This would not be happening if the Ukrainians weren't exhausted, because the Russian commitment up here is not some... it's not what you would expect to capture this from the Ukrainians. From what we've seen throughout the majority of this conflict, movement like this just doesn't happen. This is less than a week right here. You're talking about, like, we haven't seen movement around Sinkivka in how long, but this is happening in a week. So the Russians are again, trying to pull as many reserves far, far away from the east where they need to be, because if the east is lost, basically the east of the country is lost, right? This is what is holding so much of the Russian war machine back. And if you're pulling reserves up here, then this is going to progress easier. The goal of this, I believe, is exactly what the Russians did at the beginning of the war. I don't see why it would necessarily change. I think the Russians are going to go for Chukiv here. There's an airfield. It's an important area. It's where the Russians held, and it's where the Russians were pushed out of during the Ukrainian counteroffensive. So, this has always been the goal. It's a crossroads. Obviously, it leads down to Izum right here. So it does seem like the appropriate way to go about this. I don't think you're going to see anything on this end. You might see something up in the Sumy region, again, to just pull reserves from every single area. But down here, I think they're going to stay east of Kharkiv and move towards Izum and try to close out basically the entirety of the Ukrainian counteroffensive up here. And then after, that is done, you'll have Izum and you'll have Liman, and then you'll be able to push on Kramatorsk. I imagine Chasiv Yar will be done by the time all of that happens. And I imagine the Russians will be much closer to Pokrovsk by the time that happens. So we could see this all wrap up incredibly quick. And then, as Tyler just pointed out, the reserves are being taken from Odessa, from Nikolaev, from Kherson, from Zaporozhye. These areas are going to be incredibly bare. It basically means that it's the end of this like weird cranky dream. I don't even know why this is still going on. And the Russians have actually, I haven't mapped it, but they have actually captured this delta area right here. The Russians are moving in this direction. I imagine they're going to do the exact same thing that the Ukrainians did, do island hopping campaigns, and then create a little bridgehead over here. And not a big one, but just something, again, just something like this, where it's going to become a problem if the Ukrainians don't respond to it. This is the last place the Ukrainians want to be committing men, right, along the river. So if the Russians can do something over here, just like Krinky, right, just like Krinky, but hopefully more successful and not a total slaughterhouse, they'll be able to re-rotate Ukrainian troops from the east and the north where they're needed down to the south. That's a very, very, very realistic possibility. All right. All right, everybody. Yeah, so again, east, it looks like they've committed and they're going to come down the Seversky Donetsk River here and just stay east of Kharkiv, put pressure on this area, force the Ukrainians to rotate and just thin out these already struggling lines. Like this is already happening, right? We've already seen Orchitny collapse. We've already seen the Russians get close to Chasiv Yar. Novomihailovka has collapsed. Krasnohorivka is about to fall. I mean, the lines are already moving, and this just creates another issue for the AFU. This is what I had been talking about for a long time. Just go in. And if it were me, I would go in here, and I might go up in Sumy if there were no political ramifications for this, and I might go in Chernigov and just do a bunch of these little things and force the Ukrainians to move their artillery pieces, move their air defense, move everything away from the area that I want to capture, which is the Donbass. Once I capture the Donbass, this war becomes much, much easier for the Russians. I say me because I always put myself in whatever position. If I'm thinking about what the Russians need to do, it's me. What do I need to do? If I think about what the Ukrainians need to do, it's me. What do I need to do? So if you hear that language, that's why. Where have the other 300,000 Russian troops gone? They're all over the place. So one thing that people always talk about, they're like, oh, where are all these 300,000 troops? Guys, they're seeing combat. The Russians have a very, very sustainable rotation process where they're getting frontline units. Like the Ukrainians don't rotate. The Ukrainians, like the 79th and the 47th, they were just in combat all year. Like they never got a break. Certain groups probably got little breaks, but there was never a rotation of the brigade out to refit and reconstitute it. Russian brigades are being rotated constantly. So those 300,000 guys that got mobilized, they've probably all seen combat or are doing their jobs in one fashion or another. And you just don't, it's not 300,000 troops that are just committed to a certain section of the front in an offensive. No, this is how you maintain a war, right? This is a war of attrition. It's a war that has to go on it has gone on for years, and it will probably go on for a while longer. So you're going to, you want to be able to maintain that fight. You don't throw everything into combat. So these guys are just rotating in, rotating out. Yeah, that's how it goes. Yeah, exactly, bro. The front line is over 2,000 kilometers. Where do they think they are? They're all over the place. They're all over. All right, guys. All right. That's my map updates. That took 30 minutes, so that's pretty freaking cool. I just wanted to actually show you guys the topographical map. So we'll head over there and look at the topographical map just so I can show you what's going on up in the northern Kharkov region. All right, let's make sure it's working. Okay. So here we have Kharkiv. You can see this is the, I believe this is the river that runs down. So the Russians, yes, this is the river. So the Russians entered here. They're pushing down. They're going to continue pushing east and over here and east of Kharkiv down towards Chernihiv right here. Okay. So the high ground up here is a lot different. It doesn't matter as much, especially because of the forestry. So that like the high territory is not quite as valuable. But the Russians have pushed out and captured the high ground over Vovchansk, which means that the city is going to be harder for the Ukrainians to hold. But looking at a topographical map up here is not quite the same as looking at it in the east, because it's just a lot more hills. Yeah, any political news? Yeah, we're about to get into well, I have some news articles that I'm going to talk about right here. So here we go. Uh, Putin replaces Shoigu as defense minister as he starts his fifth term. So we're going to read through this and just kind of talk about how the West is, presenting this, and what it actually means, and sort of the cope that is coming along with this. So, Russian President Vladimir Putin on Sunday replaced Sergei Shoigu as defense minister in a cabinet shakeup that comes as he begins his fifth term in office. In line with Russian law, the entire Russian cabinet resigned Tuesday following Putin's glittering inauguration. I don't know why they had to say that. In the Kremlin, and most members have been widely expected to keep their jobs, while Shoigu's fate had appeared uncertain. Putin signed a decree on Sunday appointing Shoigu as secretary of the Russian Security Council, the Kremlin said. The appointment was announced shortly after Putin's proposal. Andrei Belousov to become the country's defense minister in place of Shoigu. Okay, so Shoigu has been replaced as defense minister, and this, this sort of came at a time. It comes at a very peculiar time, right? Everybody's like, the war is going well. Why are you replacing your defense minister? And those people. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and claim that I have a great, like a complete understanding of the Russian body politic, because it's very confusing. It's not what I grew up with. How could I know the ins and outs, and what groups are in charge of what? I mean, I know what their titles are and everything, but I don't know all of the nuances per se. But I knew before the SMO started that Defense Minister Shoigu did not particularly enjoy the job that he was in, and he had planned on leaving that position before the SMO began. And then once the SMO began, I believe that he kind of got stuck in that position where he's a good manager, but I don't necessarily think he's the best for the current climate, I guess, if that makes sense. The current situation that the Russian Federation is in, I don't know if Shoigu is exactly the man for the job. And I don't know if he thinks he's necessarily the man for the job. But he's done a decent job over the last 2 years, nothing to write home about. But if you look at the position the Russian military is in, I think almost everybody who's watching this right now can agree that the Russian military has completely turned around the situation in Ukraine. It looks like they are going to win. It's just a matter of time. Western sources, Western media outlets, Western pundits, the pro-Ukrainian information space, they all seem to be getting hit with a pretty large reality check right now, which is rather refreshing. I'm seeing a lot of people actually criticizing the AFU and actually criticizing what's happening and actually talking about the negative aspects and not living on this weird copium. You still have the group that thinks 2,000 Russians are dying every day, but hey, you're not gonna change those people's minds. That's the bottom 10%. There is a big shift happening right now in the I guess the zeitgeist, just the thinking in the pro-Ukrainian information space. And to remove your defense minister for bad reasons, you wouldn't do it after everything has gotten better, right? I mean, you might to keep up appearances, but what this appears to me is Shoigu probably wanted out of this job. The position he got moved into as secretary of the Security Council is not a demotion by any means. It's actually more in line with his background and what he's capable of doing. And he's going. I believe that he's also he's become the chairman or something. I heard it briefly of the basically the integration between technology and the Russian military, or something like that. Putin changed it over from the Ministry of Defense to, I believe, under the control of the Security Council. So he's going to have that position. And the new guy who's being brought in is an economist. I don't know if he's necessarily an economist, but he's a guy who is going to basically streamline the Russian wartime economy. They're bringing in a bunch. They're bringing in managers, and it's a good thing, I think. Particularly, I think they're going to bring in a bunch of people who are going to bring fresh ideas, new ideas, and they have a goal and they're trying to make a name for themselves. So I believe that this is a good thing. The cope about him being fired or sacked. I mean, the Russians are winning. So if they sacked him, he got to go out with the whole look at, I've basically beat NATO. Everything NATO can muster for this proxy war, I've beat them. Whether you believe it or not, that's how he can present his legacy. He didn't quit when things were bad. They turned things around. They showed that they were capable of winning the war, and now Shoigu is being sent to a promoted position. I sort of see this as his retirement package. He's done with probably the most important job he's had. I'm not saying the Secretary of the Security Council isn't the most important, but in terms of being in the limelight and everything, he's now being removed from that position and being sent to a less exposed job. And he's going to have a much easier time, and he's going to be able to focus on the stuff that he wants to focus on. So I do think that this is probably a overall net positive thing for the Russian government. I mean, they wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't an overall net positive thing. And this comes also at a time when Putin just won, he just got elected. So of all the time, I mean, when do you think cabinet changes are going to happen? The best time to do it is after your reelection, after everybody gives the resignation. That's when you make changes. So can we set up a celebrity fight between you and David D? Yeah, I'm sure we're in the same weight class. So, oh man. All right. If you guys have some questions, go ahead and get some questions in. I'd be happy to answer some questions. Going to talk about the next article that I have here, but I will be looking at the chat a little bit more. I've kind of talked about most of what I wanted to talk about. All right. And then this is just a way that they're talking about it. Russia-Ukraine war live. Putin reshuffle points to serious instability as Kiev sacks Kharkov commander. I don't know what this. So Putin reshuffle points to serious instability as Kiev shows their instability by sacking the commander of the Kharkov region after a failure on the battlefield. Who wrote this? Who wrote this article? Who thought putting these two things in the same sentence would make sense? Oh man, instability in Russia as they open a new front and successfully invade an area that they were pushed out of. But then this is a logical, smart move by Kiev. That's the kind of shit we're dealing with, boys. And people read that and they go, that makes sense. Wow, that makes sense. Here we have the New York Times openly acknowledging that Russian forces have pushed into the Kharkiv region. This is big just because it's allowing people who believe Ukraine is winning because they don't pay attention to anything to understand that Ukraine is not winning. Articles like that are important to see because that's what the boomers read. And then here's just another one talking about the tactical success. So everybody's picking it up. I don't know what is happening here. This is look at this propaganda photo. This is crazy. All right. We'll get the cat. We'll make sure we get the cat. Make sure it's all babushkas. Move them out. Make sure the cane's in the shot. Get the young, attractive woman going here. Man. Help her. Make sure you help her. I love it, dude. I love it. I would love so much to be just in charge of that kind of propaganda, the really bad propaganda, not the good stuff, not the stuff that, is like masterfully done with CGI and they put a lot of effort into it and they have a goal. No, this background B-roll propaganda stuff I would just love to be the director and I'd just be sitting there like, no, we need more. We need more old people and probably a baby. Probably 2 or 3 babies. We need a couple more. That's literally what I would do. And I would sit there and I'd have like a fedora on and I'd be in one of those cross-leg chairs. No, this isn't right. No, this isn't right. We need something. We need something to bring out that emotion a little bit more. And we need more young hot women because we need men to think that they're going to get laid in the military for some reason because that's ever happened ever. Come on, boys. Don't be dumb. Don't be dumb. Don't fall for it. Yeah, all these hot women in the military, and then you're stuck on a boat with, 1,000 horny dudes, and they're like, well, you're on the first boats in, so have fun. That's how they get you. Yeah, more babies, except not really, because again, they're not really having sex. Is Sarah Ashton Carrillo the head of PR in Ukraine? I don't even know if dude, is she? I don't. Is she anything there? Because she'll just disappear for a week and then come back, and I guess she's pretending to be on the front line somewhere, and then disappears for a week, and then is in a different country, and then comes back for a week. It's very odd. Whole thing's very odd. I don't get it. I don't get it, boys. Yeah, this is exactly what it does look like. The Kharkov operation looks like the Bakhmut operation. I don't know if it looks like the Bakhmut operation, but small units moving fast with a lot of artillery support, creating a lot of pressure. Yep, that is exactly what's happening. And the Ukrainians are biting, which is exactly what the Russians wanted them to do. So we'll see. Are we going to see the use of Fab 9000? Probably not. The aircraft required to carry that thing, I don't know, man. If it happens, I'll post it for you guys. All right. I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up today, guys. Thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind going and following me on Twitter, Telegram, if you want to support me on Patreon, guys, that episode is going to be filmed later today. It'll probably be up tomorrow. I know I said that last time. I had a video, but then it just kind of was weird. And I was like, I don't feel like posting that. It kind of looks like garbage. Don't want to put bad stuff out. So look out for that video. That video is going to contain, I'm just going to do a full rundown of all of the more graphic stuff that I posted. Hits and stuff that I can't talk about on the YouTube channel. I'm going to post that on the Patreon. I'm probably going to do that once or twice a week. I might do that with guests as well. Also, guys, I will be doing an episode with Clown and Zag this week. And I have some other guests lined up. So also be on the lookout for non-live stream videos that get posted to my page. So please turn on that notification bell. It will help you stay connected with me, or follow me on my Telegram and Twitter, and you'll also see them posted there. Thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate all of you coming in and watching the live stream today. I missed you guys. This is fun. I miss doing this. So I'm back, and we're going to get to work, and we got a lot to talk about, and it's going to be a very busy May. So stay tuned, guys. Until next time, take care. Goodbye.